I think there's definitely a avenue in every area, not just the public health and low income, but in all communities to provide care, and teledentistry is the way it's making it happen.
In doing that and just, falling in love with mobile dentistry and the ability to bring a service to someone who was challenged for whatever the reason is to get to a brick and mortar dental practice was just amazing.
Prior to doing this, I had some history working with seniors in nursing homes, and it was very frustrating because it was a situation where the neglect is there, and it's better to just kind of sweep that under the carpet, and I didn't want that for these individuals.
Get ready for your unofficial dental hygiene podcast. These are the tales of two hygienists, one East Coast RDH and one West Coast hygienist. Listen as they tackle the profession of dental hygiene with humor and enthusiasm. Now, please join Michelle Strange and Andrew Johnston as they tell you a tale of two hygienists.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of A Tale of Two Hygienists, episode number 199. One more, Michelle. One more than I'm free. And my name is Andrew.
And this is Michelle, who's going to be kicking Andrew off in one episode.
Yep. Mark on your calendars, everyone. November 6th will be my last episode.
I cannot believe we're at 200 episodes. Like, how did that happen?
I don't know. It's been a great
well over 200 episodes, because we have tip episodes, we have bonus episodes, we have all kinds of stuff.
Some things we didn't name. We didn't give it number 2.
Back when we were like, we're probably not going to go much longer.
Look,
these things don't need names or numbers or seasons. None of that. No. But this is a little dental hygiene podcast, guys. Hopefully you guys have learned a lot about dental hygiene, and we definitely appreciate the emails and the stories and the Instagram messages, the Facebook messages, letting us know maybe some things that really helped you take care of a patient a little bit better or change the flow of your work with patient care. I'm actually giving by the time you hear this, I think I might have already given the webinar on flipping the script for patient care through Acteon, and talking about changing up some things in dentistry, because I think it's time.
So that was a great webinar that we watched.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
I know.
In the future.
It's on demand, I think.
Okay. So go find it on Acteon's website.
Or ADHA.
So I wanted to say two things. We were talking with some of the listeners here at Dentsply Sirona World, and they had mentioned that they don't do the CE part. They listen to the episodes, but they don't know about the CE part. So we explain it sometimes in the very end, and people don't always listen to the very end, and we understand that. We're not holding that against you, but let me explain that now. In order to find the CE, it's cezoom.com is the thing, and you can do a search for A Tale of Two Hygienists episodes within their website or the app that they have.
Yeah.
But another thing you can do is open up the show notes. So the show notes are located differently on whatever app that you're using to listen to this particular podcast. So if you're listening to it on the desktop, if you're clicking onto this episode specific URL for the web page, then there are show notes in there, and there's a link towards the bottom that says take your test here.
Yep.
And it's highlighted. Lacey does a really good job of creating these tests. You have to take a test in order to get the credit for it. That's just the rules of AGD and accreditation and all that kind of stuff. If you're using your app, Brittany and I were trying to figure out how to do it with Apple, and there's a little down button that you have to hit on the iTunes app or the Apple Podcast app. On like mine is Podcast Addict, there's yet another thing that you need to hit to find all the show notes. It's not always the most convenient location, but usually I can hit some sort of expand button. So please make sure you expand it, find the link, click on that to get your CE credit. Also make sure you're checking your state's rules and regulations to make sure that distance learning works for you.
Yeah.
And that there's not a cap on the number of hours that you can listen to.
Exactly. But that's so easily done with CE Zoom. So
yeah. It's just easier. Just go to CE Zoom.
Just go to there and do it. Yeah.
And PDT, thank you. I'm gonna thank you at the very beginning of this episode, because you guys have been such good supporters of us. And again, sometimes people don't listen to the end. They are sponsoring all of the CE for you guys, so it is free. So
because PDT, absolutely. And I'm really excited that we are having this teledentistry episode. We actually recorded this when we were at RDH Under One Roof, and thank you to MouthWatch for letting me host the panel with these panelists that you're going to hear on the episode today. It was really great content. I learned quite a lot, and I am actually even trying to get my volunteer outreach place to start implementing some of these aspects of teledentistry. And I've even included it in my courses because I feel like we're really underutilizing a lot of the things that just even from basic private practice, just taking the most simple two things that I can think of that are not utilized in private practice is the third molar referral. Like just send that over to them via Teledent in the software and biopsies.
Yeah, for sure.
Because those people just rarely follow up. At least my people just were like, oh yeah, I should have gone to that. I'm like, well, I mean, that was 6 months ago and here's the fourth time I've said something about it. So
no, good points. All very good points. There's a lot of things that you can implement into your everyday practice. I don't think teledentistry always has to be working out in the remote areas. There's lots of functionality to it for your everyday practice. So make sure you're checking that out.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm actually even using the MouthWatch camera quite a bit for airway assessment.
Yeah.
I'm having the patient while they're sitting up, I'm taking, because at least with me and EagleSoft, I could do a video. So I have the person say, tongue out, say, with their tongue in, and actually looking at their Mallampati score and documenting it with a video. So then they can see what I'm talking about.
Right.
Which is so nice.
Picture's worth 1,000 words.
Videos are worth more.
That's where I was going with that.
Yep. So thanks to them. And so I think you're really going to learn a lot from this episode with the guest, Dr. Kinol, Staci Stout, Elaine Mamola, and Kara Roszel.
Hey, Michelle.
Yeah.
It's time for the interview.
Oh, but I had something else to say.
We need to let the experts talk now.
Fine.
So we are here at Under One Roof, and we all just got off a panel that I was so lucky to moderate. I learned a lot from you guys, and this is going to be all about teledentistry. And I want to we'll start here and introduce, introduce who you are and what you're doing in teledentistry.
Hi, I'm Carol Roselle, and I am the oral health director from Little City in Palatine, Illinois. Little City is a organization that works with intellectually and developmentally disabled people. We do all kinds of services, and for them, we provide them with home services, health services, training, and the oral health program that is included in. And so what my job involves is providing them with toothbrushes, toothpastes for their individual, one per person, and making sure that any instructions or help from their oral health provider is carried through the rest of their home care. So I am responsible for helping the direct care staff understand what it is to brush. A lot of those people are not medically or dentally trained. So we train them. We use the same verbiage and explain that to the care staff as well as the individual so that they can take over when I am not there. I also work with the social workers and the nurses that care for them, and there's a lot of collaboration, and that's kind of where the teledentistry comes in. So when I get a chance to go into their community homes, the community integrated homes, I can actually take pictures in their dining room. That's usually my setup on the kitchen table. Or, and I take pictures of their teeth. We use that for identification purposes. That becomes part of their medical record. And then I'm also taking any pictures of their teeth as far as any problems that I see. And I can, teledentistry wise, send those to their provider and hopefully get some care for them on a very timely manner. A lot of times these individuals are kind of lost in between the cracks. I'm that person that kind of oversees things and makes sure that they are being seen on a regular basis and that the instructions that are given to them by their provider are followed through. So it's kind of a lot of education. I'm not necessarily working with instruments, but I am still doing a lot of dental hygiene education.
There you are. Staci.
Hi, thanks for having me here. My name is Staci Stout. I own a company called Dentacare, as well as a foundation called Dentacare Foundation. And underneath Dentacare are 3 businesses that provide care in settings that some people wouldn't normally get out to see a dentist. So I have a school-based program called Smart Smiles, and we are in 7 school districts and 50 elementary, junior high schools, adding a high school soon, which is exciting. And then we also have Senior Smiles that we provide care in nursing homes and assisted living and other senior communities, as well as Pro Smiles, that is for corporations, where we go into businesses, set up mobile, and see all of the employees. And we utilize teledentistry in all of these settings. And so when we have, oftentimes I'll have at least 4 teams of a dental hygienist and a dental assistant out at a school, and they'll be providing care as well as a team working in senior communities. And in that time, I have a dentist that is often working in the senior community, and he is providing exams for 5 different dental hygienists in 5 different locations across the state. So it's pretty exciting to be able to provide that care. And even in the businesses where we're seeing a population that would normally have access, seniors, you've got barriers of getting them mobile to get into a dental office. It's really difficult. It's hard on their energy levels too to get them out and get them seen. You have kids where, especially in the low income areas, the parents may be both working or they don't have insurance. They have language barriers. There's lots of things that are preventing them from care. But what we're finding is even in the businesses and corporations, they're busy. They're working their job. They're getting home. They're taking care of their family. They are not necessarily following up with oral care. So I think there's definitely a avenue in every area, not just the public health and low income, but in all communities to provide care. And teledentistry is the way it's making it happen, because you can have, you're utilizing this dentist a lot better because he can be providing exams in multiple locations. You're also keeping costs down because you don't have to pay for that dentist to be at a particular location all day. He can, or she, I need to be politically correct, can be providing these exams. And by doing that, you're able to identify needs. The dental hygienist is able to provide education for these populations and really delve into why oral health is important. And if nothing else, what we're hoping to do too is a lot of people will put oral health kind of on the back burner. And by going into these areas, going to them, talking about the importance of oral health, identifying needs that you may find and the dentist may find as well, you're able to then build the bridge back to a brick and mortar practice, which ultimately is kind of a win-win for the patient, the preventive team that's out doing that, as well as the dentist to increase patient base. So
amazing. Elaine.
Hi, thanks for having me. I'm Elaine Mamola. I founded Smiles by Delivery in 2012 in Arizona. Similar to Stacy, we have setups where we can we focus on homebound seniors at different community levels, care homes, and then we also do work with the VA and seeing the homebound veterans that are challenged to get to the VA dental clinics. And so we do work a lot with collaboration is a big key term for treating homebound patients, just because there's so many people in contact with that person that it's really important to have everyone on the same page and know a little bit of everything about what this the care home agency is doing for this person, and is there a director of nursing that's involved closely with this person, contacting their medical providers, which in Arizona we have a lot of mobile physician groups. And so having that really close relationship with the mobile providers is key. So I did an abstract last year with the Telehealth Association. And so I worked with some of their mobile physician assistants and followed them around and was getting them trained on how to do intraoral exams so that we can have that collaboration and have that information immediately to us, just to help streamline that process and get that dental care to those people. So we do have the hygiene teams going out without the doctor. So it's important when we do teledentistry to our teledentist that we have all that information, and with x-rays and digital photos and just the notations from the hygienist about any areas of concern, can really put together this package that the doctor gets a really good view of what's going on, and can make options, treatment plans, and just get the care in there. So just the whole collaboration effort is really important. And so aside from Smiles by Delivery, we also have the nonprofit Healthy Senior Smiles. We started a radio show that we do weekly out there called Healthy Senior Living. And believe it or not, it's not a dental show. It is really inviting just many people that are involved in the movement to have better, healthier lifestyles for seniors. So we've had different guests on our show with, fiduciaries. We actually had the former Prime Minister of Canada that came down, and he was on our show. That was really, our city is surprised that we're headquartered and is very proactive into making this medical triage area, because we have a lot of Canadian visitors in Arizona. We have 1 million Canadian visitors. And we became the 35th state in Arizona that we actually, for medical, they can get reimbursed from the Canadian. So it's a really great resource, because some of the Canadians that are coming to visit, they have to pay a lot of that out of pocket, or sometimes they go down to Mexico and get their work done there. But now they have the resource of having a doctor, and that physician here in Arizona, I'm not in Arizona right now, can submit for reimbursement for their Canadian health benefits. So the former Prime Minister was down there working on that movement, and we were trying to piggyback on that, saying, hey, if they're coming down here, and they're partnering with different hospitals for joint replacements and all that, and I said, wouldn't it be nice to have your dental cleaning, exam, or any work done before you have your treatment here? So we got really involved in that process with the City of Surprise in Arizona, and so we happened to be taping when he was out and said, hey, do you want to be on our show?
That's awesome.
So it is a small percentage of dental on our show, but there, like I said, in the whole scheme of things, there's so many people that are involved to take care of one person, so many people that have to touch that person to get them to health. And in the scope of dentistry, we have to deal with all those people. So the collaboration, the teledentistry, talking with providers outside that live outside the state, power of attorneys for these patients that live out of state, using those teledentistry tools. I mean, they're not going to read an x-ray, but intraoral pictures, they can see a lot what's going on in mom's mouth. So teledentistry has really brought a lot together so that we can do all of that. Mm-hmm.
Elaine, that's really interesting that you say that about all the different people that come into the care. That's one of the things that we find very, very much the same way. And with each person, there's an opportunity to the ball get dropped. And so that's why these pictures are helpful, because it's the continuity of care, and it's bringing awareness in such a visual way on so many different levels. And so in our situation, the social workers are saying it. They are then able to show those pictures and show the impact to the families, and the nurses can see it, and they have the visual on that, and they are seeing the impact of it. And so when you have a situation where you have all these individuals that combine together to take care of one person, it does open up different avenues of that ball being dropped, but the teledentistry really kind of closes those gaps, and it makes the care much more efficient, which is really helpful.
So true. It's Dr. Connell.
I'm Dr. Brittney Connell, and I founded Miracle Dental Associates in 2016. It is a pediatric dental group with a blend of general and pediatric dentists. And our goal was to serve the underserved kids of the Pittsburgh area within about a 150-mile radius of Pittsburgh. And we use teledentistry in the Head Starts that we go into with the young kids. And we also use it in the residential treatment facilities, which are facilities that house kids anywhere as young as 6 to 20, up to 21. And they are either coming out of juvenile detention or they are coming out of a psychiatric hospital. We send out public health hygienists in both those settings and then use the teledentistry exams for those particular situations.
I'm curious
how you're utilizing exactly hygienists in each of your programs. I know you said you're sending out public health, but like, what are they doing exactly? And how does that fit within your particular scope of practice?
So within my practice in the Head Starts, I'm sending out one public health hygienist with an assistant usually. And so that public health hygienist will do the intraoral pictures, do the x-rays, cleaning, fluoride varnish, while the assistant is doing your data entry, helping getting the x-rays and the cameras set up, and then anything that needs to be shared on any of the softwares, like uploading it, making sure the consents are signed, all the health histories are good, any questions with those. Yeah, so that's exactly what we're doing with our public health hygienists and the two settings that we use them.
For dental hygienists in our practice, they do a lot of different things. The obvious is that they go out and they see the patients. They do the same thing with teledentistry, get that all set up. Within the community, they're doing caregiver training. We try and get that done quarterly with all the communities that we work with. So we're in probably about 120 different communities in Arizona, and there's a lot of turnover there. And for the same reason of making sure that we're all working together to take care of this patient, we need to make sure that those caregivers know when they're looking in the patient's mouth, what's normal, what's abnormal. Is that homemade reline on your denture okay? It's not. We believe it or not, we've seen pretty creative things for relines, from paper towels to slices of bologna that are switched out every week.
The wrong stuff.
So they need to be able to, be on the same page. So our hygienists also do outreach for the supporting communities and facilities, and then they do screenings too. We do screenings on our patients just to find out, what's going on before they become patients, just for the protection of the communities. So.
How about you, Stacy? You said you have 5.
Currently, we very similarly, we have every hygiene team consists of the dental hygienist as well as the dental assistant. They support each other in setting equipment up. The dental hygienist's main responsibility is to make sure that the computers are up and the programs are synced and the Wi-Fi is working correctly, while the dental assistant sets up all the other equipment. And then when they are ready for patient care, the assistant usually will collect that patient, get that patient in the chair, and then the dental hygienist will collect all of that initial data from the intraoral images to the x-rays to that initial assessment to determine what communication needs to go to the dentist. And then the dental assistant conveys all of that information into our communication program. And it continues that communication between the dentist and the dental hygienist while the dental hygienist proceeds with patient care. And then they go all the way through as the dental assistant gets that information from the dentist. They're able to talk through if there's additional questions from the dentist. The dentist is seeing something additional on the x-ray. Maybe they're seeing a black spot off an intraoral image that they want to have that explorer to determine if there's a little stick or something. And so that communication can be managed between that dentist to the dental assistant to the dental hygienist. And that whole exam can happen at the same time that that patient is in the chair. And then by the end of the appointment, by then the assistant has entered in all of the patient notes, the dental hygiene notes, and then the dental hygienist and the dental assistant will switch as they release the patient. The dental hygienist will review all of those notes and then go ahead and sign and submit those notes while the assistant flips the room and is ready to go.
So how do you guys communicate when the dentist is kind of reviewing at the same time? How does he communicate with the dental assistant? Is it just via cell phone?
No, we use a communication software that it's like we use
Instant Messenger.
It's like that. We use Slack actually to do that.
I love
Is it within your dental software?
No, it's not. So we have different tabs open on the computer.
Okay.
So Slack will be a tab. Our dental software is a tab, and then our programs that we run, all of the automated programs through, like, because when we get that patient in the chair and we fill out the services that we provided, it goes into a doc, and then there's an email sent home to the family because it's all automated through the docs. So
you're just kind of running all these in tandem.
Yeah, they're all individual tabs. Elaine is like,
this was my.
It would be amazing to have that
money
together.
to get a program for mobile dental teams that does everything. So yeah, we do something really similar to Stacy. We use our messaging system. Then we have House Call Pro, which does our scheduling and routing but it's, some things are redundant, but because there isn't that integration between software programs yet. So
Yeah, it's coming.
I'm hoping so. But yeah, that would be amazing because we do have a dispatch person that has to, coordinate with multiple teams to get this all working seamlessly.
If we get it seamless, then the more patients we're able to see. When I first started this process, in a day period, I was so thrilled to see 4 or 5 kids a day. Yeah. And in private practice, it's a lot quicker because you don't have to deal with all of the other things that you have to with mobile. But we've now streamlined it enough. Yes, we have to go into multiple programs, but we are seeing most of my hygiene team can see between 10 to 12 students per day. And that's in a school day. So that's like 8 to 3.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's really good. So I know there's some lingo that we probably could put out there as far and the codes that go with it. Because you guys were also talking earlier about a teledentistry code that you attach to an exam, and then there's synchronized and asynchronized. Yeah. So who could break that down for our listeners so that they better understand the coding and the lingo that goes with teledentistry?
Well, we use the asynchronized. I'm not too familiar. I don't do the live at all. But because the reimbursements and we do attach exams to our teledentistry code, so that we can track that to find out, was it a clinical exam? So for instance, our patients, when they're seeing a provider, a hygienist, they're getting that assessment. And then she forwards that on to the doctor. The doctor's notified there's a teledentistry exam, which is that code, the asynchronized, and then it's attached to either the periodic or limited or whatever that type of exam is. And then when that teledentist diagnoses and the treatment's in the chair, then that's a totally different clinical exam that the doctor does there. So we have to go through that process. So we haven't had the opportunity to do the synchronized one, so I'm not sure if that's getting billed out. I think you'd mentioned
same thing
that you're getting reimbursed now.
Right. Just depending on whether we're doing the exam with the dentist at the real time as the patient's in the chair, but we bill the same thing. So you'd be billing teledent, whether it's asynchronous or synchronous, and then your exam, whatever type of exam, your fluoride and your prophy.
And I'll kind of clarify that for maybe a listener that doesn't really understand the difference between asynchronous and synchronous. So there is 2 different dental codes supported by the American Dental Association. Synchronous is real-time encounter. So whether that dentist is connecting via video or but it's a live exam. So we consider our exams live, even though we're communicating through software and he or she isn't necessarily seeing that patient visually through a computer monitor. We still would consider our exam a real-time synchronous exam, and that's D9995. Asynchronous means that dental hygiene team has taken that information, sent it to the cloud, and then the dentist just gets around to it when they can. So they maybe are in a private practice and they're seeing a patient, and you're going to go ahead and dismiss the child in the school program. And then when that dentist has some free time, they're going to go ahead and review that. Or at the end of the day, they'll review all of the files that have been sent to them. That is asynchronous. So not real time. Kind of, it's called store and forward.
So first of all, I feel like some of you guys have started your own things. And I wanted to know, was the impetus to start these things because teledentistry existed? Or did you already start it and then teledentistry came along and now supports what you're doing?
Yeah, I started in public health in the mid-'90s as an assistant working for our county's school-based program for the Sealant program. So, in doing that and just, falling in love with mobile dentistry and the ability to bring a service to someone who was challenged for whatever the reason is to get to a brick and mortar dental practice was just amazing to me. So, I worked in private practice for about 12 years and then went in and I thought, at this point in my career, in my life, I want to be able to do this and figure out what demographic I wanted to really focus on and do that. So I was doing it was probably about a year or two into starting the practices when we really started getting into the teledentistry aspect of it and found that we can do a lot more and see a lot more people and deliver services by utilizing these teledentistry.
Yeah, and I think for us in Utah, we passed legislation allowing a dental hygienist to work in these particular settings. So seniors, schools, things like that. And so I started to develop models for dental hygienists to experience working in these settings because it's a little different. And when you're used to working in private practice, you have to learn a different process and a different way of doing things. And so I initially just started to create these models, but when we passed the legislation, it required a dental hygienist to work collaboratively with a dentist. And it was a literal document, a legal document that we had to sign. And so within that document, we had to communicate our treatment and to our dentist. And initially, I was aware of HIPAA. But for some reason, I thought, I'll just go ahead and email him. I sent him an email and I said, okay, I saw these particular patients today, and this is what I provided for them. And then after I sent that email off, it was like, I don't know that was very legal. So then I actually Googled, HIPAA compliant dental software, cloud-based, and actually ran across Brant Herman with MouthWatch.
Nice.
And so started working with him a little bit and was able to finally be able to send records HIPAA compliant and do things the right way. So that was a good thing.
Our program existed, but in a very different way. The hygienist that was there before me did a lot of desensitization, and it was just a weekly appointment with them. By me bringing in teledentistry, I was able to kind of bring it up to the level of with the medical. And I realized how important it was to have those pictures and to share. I had this wonderful opportunity to work with these individuals, and any information that I could acquire, I wanted to be able to share either with their provider or with the medical team or store as records and have a document that showed that we were doing it, that that oral care was being taken care of, that it was not a neglectful situation. Prior to doing this, I had some history working with seniors in nursing homes, and it was very frustrating because it was a situation where the neglect is there, and it's better to just kind of sweep that under the carpet, and I didn't want that for these individuals. I had this opportunity, and I again was working with Brant and had the opportunity to use this stuff and make more of it and really enhance the program the way we have. So that's when we started doing the pictures for identification purposes and have it part of their records.
Now, when you're doing those pictures, I'm assuming that this is just something that of your guys' workflow that you wanted to have on record. Was there any sort of, with any of you, things that you would have to report to certain organizations that are either funding your missions, your drive, your companies, or is it pretty much the same as private practice as far as things that you have to send to insurance companies?
So in our situation, we are not submitting anything. I am paid for by grants. So we are not tracking, and I don't work under the supervision of a dentist because I'm actually not doing the clinical dental hygiene with instruments and things like that. I am basically enhancing and making that bridge. But I also realize that these individuals, they don't use fingerprints as far as identification. Because of the sensory issues that these individuals have, they just don't take fingerprints. And if you follow through, these individuals really don't get a lot of x-rays. It's hard to take pictures on someone who's not 100% cooperative. And a lot of times it's on a tooth that's going to be extracted. So once again, what have we gained with that? And we don't have the history. And some of them are wards of the state. And so they don't have family pictures. They don't have pictures of at Christmas time or birthdays or whatever. They're very limited. So who keeps track of this? How would we have a situation? And so I felt it was really important just for them as individuals to have some documentation. So, and then again, I have a couple friends that work in forensics and just asking questions. And, there actually has to be, before someone can be declared a person, if in a case of an identification, there has to be, I think, 9 points of identification. It's not just, Clarabelle's crown is the same as this Clarabelle, so it must be Clarabelle. No. They have to have 9 forms of identification. So they can take the trabecular bone patterns and match that up. They can take a fingerprint, or they can take, a smile picture, but they have to have 9 forms of identification at 9 points. So if we're not taking these things and we don't have this, how does someone get that? How do they believe that person is that person? And
I think the images, Carol, you touched on that, was it's important to share that information and to have that as part of the patient's file. But it's also, I think, important for the families to see. I mean, if you're going to send home a note from a child at school and say, we've identified 4 cavities on your child, that parent may choose to believe us or not. So, especially if they're coming from the aspect, they're just, they're a dentist, they're just trying to get my money. And so, but if you can show them that image, then it's going to speak louder, and they'll maybe follow through a little bit better. Too, with even in dealing with the older adults and their power of attorneys who, again, may not see mom or dad often, they're out of state or whatever, and having those pictures, when they say, well, I saw mom, and she seemed fine. Well, they're not looking at her posterior molars. They're not looking at all that. And the other component of it that a lot of people don't understand, which I've trained all the medical doctors and the caregiver teams that we work with, is typically for our older adults, one of the chief complaints you don't really assess is you can't ask them if they're having pain, because if you ask them, over time, the nerve ending diminishes in your mouth, and they're not able to feel pain, like they were when they were in their 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s. But now that they're in their 80s, you can have an x-ray of a tooth that's, bombed out, and they feel nothing. They feel nothing. Often they're highly medicated too.
That's true. Yeah. They could be on medication for the hip or the back. Yeah. And so that's totally masking the pain.
When we tell them that, your mom or dad's in this situation, they need this treatment, they're like, what? But you have the pictures to support what you're saying, and, talking to the medical providers too. That really takes that message over.
Yeah, right. It's important.
The question was your program there or before teledentistry, or did you discover teledentistry and create the program?
Yeah, we started out just doing mobile, and then it was brought to my attention by the MCOs of Pennsylvania that, do you want to get on board with this? And I said, what? And then I was like, oh, that's a really good idea. And they're like, yes, it is. And I'm like, okay, let me explore it. And then you explore it and you're like, oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So It came after, but not far after, I started, but it was not why I started the company. But Mobile Shore was, on-site dental shore was definitely part of the business plan.
Isn't it amazing how each one of us have said how the teledentistry has just enhanced the number of people? Not only has it enhanced our treatment, but it has increased the number of people being seen.
Yeah.
And we were just talking about this earlier that, teledentistry truly is probably one of the biggest advancements in dentistry in decades because, yes, we have certain things that are more high end, but teledentistry, I believe, has impacted the larger number of people that we can see. And it's really improving. It's reaching people that have before never had that opportunity. And that's why I think it's so exciting.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So earlier you were mentioning about some of the software integration issues you've had. Were there any other challenges that someone would want to know about just integration of software through your day-to-day?
I think developing the processes has been probably taken the most amount of our time. I mean, as a clinician, you can pretty much pull anything off. I've served missions in Mali and Haiti, and you get in there, and by the time you get an instrument in your hand, it's automatic. You just do what you do best. But yeah, I mean, coming in as a dental hygienist and trying to figure out the IT of how everything works is a challenge, and to figure out what programs are going to work well for you, and what you need to add to just make it work a little easier and better and take less time. When we were first working, and we would have to take x-rays in a program outside of the dental software that we were taking, and then we'd have to click to save them as a PDF and then bring them in, and it was like
I remember doing that. Yes.
And
then you couldn't manipulate the x-rays either because they were already saved as
now they're
PDFs. Right. And then we figured out how to get the images in, right?
Exactly. Yep. Yeah. So it is a process, and it does take some time to work through that process, especially when this is new to us. We don't know. Mm-hmm. So, but I think we're all in a position now. We feel pretty good about the processes. It'll continue to advance as we come across other programs and other software that we can implement to make it a little easier for us.
So I would like to move into legislation and state practice acts, because as we talked about earlier today on the panel, that it's a little scary to read those sometimes. And sometimes you make the assumption that you can't do it because maybe you're in a state that doesn't have anesthesia even, or direct access. And so you guys are all working in very different states and you're making it work. So maybe it's not perfect, but you can kind of find a way. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I would. I know our one project we're trying to work on right now is that for legislature, you have to look at, and this actually goes into dental assistants. So for dental hygienists, we have them, of course, most of our patients are on 3-month free care for hygiene, but there are patients, I'm sure you guys agree, that need more than that. So we created a program called Plaque Attack. So it means that they get their teeth brushed once a week, and chlorhexidine wipe down, interproximal breaths, and then we'll also, if we can grab a caregiver, bring them in and train them. However, we're finding out that it would be really nice for a dental assistant to do that, but dental assistants can't do that unless they're in direct supervision. However, medical assistants and caregivers can. So now we're I know. So what I'm actually have a meeting next week is that I'm going to be contracting with a caregiver, and I know a lot of caregiver teams, and they've been on our show, and so we do partnerships with them. So one of my things is, why don't I contract with you? I'll get a bucket of whatever hours and have your caregiver trained by us so they know what to look for, and then they can legally go and brush the people's teeth, because that's under caregiving is under grooming.
Correct.
Teeth brushing is under grooming. And a dental assistant who's been a dental assistant for years and can take x-rays cannot brush someone's teeth.
And there's states that hygienists can't go in and brush their teeth. That was one of our barriers too before we were able to pass the legislation.
That's kind of our solution, is to work with a caregiver team and make sure that they're very well trained, but that's the workaround that we have to deal with because of these laws.
I'm just curious, like because you guys have been in these legislative meetings and the state boards, and when you are like, help me understand how a medical CNA with no ability to identify an abscess or gingivitis, not no way, but that would take another step of learning for them. And that makes sense. Like, I just want to know.
I know. This is something we bang our heads.
Conversation in these meetings.
We bang our heads against the wall on this, because if you look at the course that a medical assistant has to take in order to get some sort of certification or license. For instance, I had a friend that did it. It was a 6-week course. I looked through her book. Not only was it very minimum amount of oral health care in there. I mean, it talked a little bit about brushing. It talked about denture care. Mm-hmm. It was so out of date. Yeah. I mean, our seniors are coming into these facilities with most of their teeth at this point, and within 18 months to 2 years, they're dentures. Oh, they're bombed out. Their teeth have infected. It's terrible. So when that is a challenge. Plus, in addition to that, you have caregivers that I've talked to numerous medical assistants and nurses, and I'm like, well, how do you feel about let's get on board with oral health? And they're like, no. I'd much rather change a bedpan or a brief than
not all of them.
I was going to say, because I know a lot of these facilities, and some of them really want to do something. But if you think about it, and you have one caregiver overseeing 10 patients, and in the morning they've got to get them dressed, they've got to get them medicated, they've got to get them fed. Where is toothbrushing in that when you have to look at all of them? And if they do, it might be a quick 10-second thing if they're lucky. So that's why, if we can figure out a way around that,
ideally a dental hygienist needs to be assigned to all those communities, all nursing homes, all assisted living, all schools. How many kids come down to the office with a toothache and the school nurse has no idea what to do or what the reasons are.
That would be amazing if we could get that fast track forward to
that's
there.
My dream.
But in the interim, these are the things that we have to do to provide this care for the patients. So
Don't forget the caregivers are also viewed under a medical situation as opposed to a dental situation. And I've taken the caregiver exam, and it was basically an online class that I read for 2 hours and paid $75, and I got my card. So it was, a matter of 3 paragraphs on oral health. That's it.
Yeah. So, I mean, is this a conversation that's had in these meetings, and people are just like,
we're not getting anywhere with it?
It makes sense.
Yes.
I know. I'm like, just
because it's easier to ignore it.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
That, and you can pay a caregiver or a medical assistant $8 an hour. And run their little legs off all day and, ignore oral health. Where if you're going to bring in a dental hygienist, they're going to ask to be paid fair and equitably.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So getting back to the legislation side of it, what is it that we can be doing if someone is listening to this and they just are getting very much a visceral reaction like I'm getting to this whole thing? Like, what can they be doing? Of course, maybe being a part of your state association, being bigger in numbers.
Absolutely.
But if reading a state practice act gives them a headache like it does for me,
yes.
I mean, what can we be doing to make this a more progressive situation?
And this is what we came across when we got to legislation is they're like, yes, you're a dental hygienist and you have, skin in the game. You want to be able to pull money out of what we're trying to pass. So they said you would actually make it a little further if you brought patients up that said, we need this for our families. We need this for my community. So, and they're like, we don't ever hear from the public. They don't ever come and say how important oral health is to them. So, until we do, there's no reason why we're going to go into
there is a saying, I have teeth and I vote. And make people aware of that. I mean, I really think that's important.
Yeah.
They care about voters, and as voters have teeth and they care about their teeth, they need to do that.
Well, and we've got to get people to care about their teeth. I think we have done ourselves a disservice by not standing up for our patients and not discussing them. How many practices run with that patient showing up, that dental hygienist doing their job and sending that patient off without ever cracking the seal of a brand new toothbrush and showing them exactly where to brush, how to floss? That happens. And we, as the dental hygienist, we feel that pressure to get that patient in and out of the chair. And and sometimes we're forced to see that adult patient in 30 minutes or less, that child in 10 minutes. We're doing double hygiene. We, as dental hygienists, I think, need to stand up for ourselves and say, I am a licensed dental professional. It is my responsibility to treat these patients the way I know and understand, and to benefit them the most, instead of being told how we should be treating those patients in and out of the chair as quick as possible. And so I think if we can really stand up for ourselves, spend that time with that patient, expressing the importance of oral health, how that relates to their overall health, put that understanding on them that they're like, they seek that. And so when they're not getting that care, and you're like, hey, we're trying to pass legislation to get care, then they are right alongside of you and like, well, that's my hygienist. I know this is what she's taught me. This is what I think is important.
One of the other things that we had talked about was the, educating our dentists, our doctors about this. Mm-hmm. And I think it's really important because, as you said, it's scary. Change is scary. And if they don't understand what this is all about, maybe it's taking those baby steps so that when they are on vacation and we're still able to work, take those pictures to support the documentation that you have made in their record. And therefore, if the doctor is coming back and reviewing that they can look and refer back to the pictures you've taken so that maybe they are not necessarily calling the patient back, and they understand that that's saving them time and answering the questions. So in the last office that I was working clinically, when doctor would go on vacation, we saw patients and then he would review charts, and then he would look at the x-rays and, well, I want to double check this. Well, knowing how he works, if we were able to take pictures and he was able to refer back to that, that might clear some of that schedule. That might, take some of that congestion out of that after vacations, crunch. And at least, introducing that to our doctors and saying, yeah, and when we can do this, and then maybe we'll be able to get it billed that way. And when they see that coming back, and billing with the teledentistry codes, and that even though they're out of the office, they can come back and review that. That's a small step in the direction. It's going to be yes, we've got all this networking and building, but we also have to take those small steps and incorporate that in our clinical situations.
You said, did you have something to say? Sorry.
Yeah, I was going to say, as we're talking about legislation, is the biggest pushback that I find in Pennsylvania is from the dentists. So one of my goals, as I also work for an MCO, is to go into our local dental school and present the public health aspect to them. Even our public health at our university, they do research. They don't do live work in the public health sector in Pittsburgh. My goal was to go in there and teach these dental students that they can have a career that is full of good clinical dentistry, profitable, and still see Medicaid patients. And I'm focusing more on the pediatric side of it because we're lacking the pediatric dentists that will take Medicaid in Pennsylvania. So I truly believe it starts in school. I never wanted to take Medicaid because guess what? It was drilled in my brain that you were a terrible dentist if you took Medicaid. You did it because you had no other option, and you were going to get paid nothing, and none of those are true. But then if you say, like, okay, take it a step further, like, the dentists are the ones that don't want this legislation to pass most of the time. The legislators just don't maybe, I don't want to say, like, not care to actually think about the changes that we're proposing. They just like to stay status quo. So why and I know, like, in our dental school that's close to us, the hygiene school and the dental school do not work together.
No, the dumbest thing they ever did was
and so, right. And if they came together, maybe the dentist would have some respect for the hygienist and actually see, like, I am blown away. Like, I'm going to, like, cry. I'm, like, blown away at you guys. Like, I really am. Like, it's just unbelievable.
It is. It is.
That you guys are so smart and just so progressive compared to dentists. And I just wish, like, they would see. I do. I don't even. I know.
Earlier during the panel that there was a little pushback because maybe the financial side of it, and that they really don't think that we would do a bad job necessarily. Right. They're a little more afraid.
It's just their pride. And if they could just kind of grow up with you guys in school.
I totally agree.
Then they would respect you not as you guys are underneath us. You're side by side and you do kind of different things.
Right.
That's it.
And, it's just, I think it starts with that. And then that's what will help the public health as well.
I agreed.
So we really need to get into the schools and start at the ground level.
Yeah.
I agree.
And then to circle back with that financial, and as we kind of close, and I know I always get y'all going over.
I didn't say a word.
No, you just texted it.
I could feel it. No, but you're talking about, like, how it could be utilized in private practice. And I'm thinking too is, like, if we had the combo of getting in an education, so, in school, but also coming with them as hygienists, or coming to them as hygienists with this business plan. I know, what am I talking about being business? Like, I'm so anti-business in dentistry, but I get it now that you have to approach a dentist that's financially driven or concerned.
Right.
And say, financially concerned about their business. And say, I think we wouldn't have to clog the schedule when you get back from vacation. I could be still seeing patients. We could be producing in the office while you're on vacation. Oh, and BT dubs, we can also do oral surgery, pathology things. And our patients can be like, hey, I'm going to go to that dentist because if I do have a problem or I do find something, it's not going to take me another trip to another dentist. Like, they're doing these very progressive things, and be smart about that. Ortho consults, all those different things that we could really start to utilize. And then maybe if we touch on that financial concern that they have, then, we can build it that way as well from that private practice sector.
It really does have to be a multi-faceted
approach.
Yes, we have to come in from different angles. But again, I think if it is something new, it is something that it really is enhancing. More patients are being seen, better care is being taken care of, and there is a possibility of them making more money with it too. So everybody can be happy. We can all play happy in the sandbox if we're working together. And I think that's where we need to come from. I think, and even again, approaching it from the medical side too, and letting that is something that in the medical field, it is pictures are constantly being taken. They use it and they submit it for insurance claims as proof. And, we have to look at that, and we have to see, they have to see the value in what we're doing as well. I don't think it's a negative or they're not looking at us or viewing us as a negative. It's more of, they don't know what we can do. And I think when the medical people are explained, that the physicians and the nurses realize the power and our capabilities, that we can work together and we can enhance and make things better, especially in nursing homes and things like that. We can partner together. I think that's very, very important.
So this might be a hard question, but if you had one thing that you could suggest for any of our listeners to start with teledentistry, is it buy a camera? Is it read your practice act? Like, what is the
all of the above
first thing?
Yeah.
And if you don't want to read your practice act, contact Stacy.
That's right. Call me. I'll help you.
But is that kind of what you're thinking?
I think you do need to be familiar with what you're able to do. I know sometimes we've talked about that dental hygienist taking those images on patients while the dentist is out of vacation, but there are some states that don't even allow the dental hygienist to do that much. So I think you really need to be very familiar with what you're allowed to do legally in your state. And then if you're not happy with that, then you either change it or you get creative. Just like Carol, in her state, dental hygienists are not allowed to work independent at all from a dentist, but she's been able to get creative and provide oral care to people that really, really needed it. I think there's avenues for us as dental hygienists. And so I think depending on where your passion is, that's where you kind of go.
Get creative. Think out of the box.
Out of the box.
Mm-hmm. There's a lot of opportunities out there, and you'll make it. And don't be afraid of the nose. Like I said before, don't be afraid of the nose, because that'll happen. But keep trying and be creative.
And if you're in private practice, yes, standard of care should be an intraoral camera. If you're not utilizing it for teledentistry, when you're first learning to use that camera, there's a little learning curve. You think you're hovering over the occlusal surface of number 3 and you're clear in the middle of the palate. Right? You got to kind of figure out how to use that camera. Use it for patient education. If that patient sees what they see up on that screen, that's awesome. And then that dentist comes in and he sees all of those, or she, I'm sorry, I keep doing that, sees those images. That's awesome for them too. And they can make a better patient plan and treatment plan moving forward. And then from there say, hey, we're using this camera in private practice. Why don't I attach it to a laptop and go down to the nursing home? How do you feel about that if I send you a few pictures from the nursing home?
How about stop clocking out when you don't have a patient and go down to the nursing?
That's right.
That would be great. Smarter.
So yeah, baby steps.
Okay. Any contact information that if we have listeners that have questions or comments, how can they find you guys?
They can find me online. So if they just type in dentacare.dental, and it's denta with an I, dentacare.dental, that's our website. They can also email me at stacy@dentacaremanagement.com. And I'm more than happy to help anybody through the process. It's been a learning curve for me, and I would love to share what we've learned.
They can reach me at Roselle at littlecity.org.
For me, Elaine, it's smilesbydelivery.com is our website. My email is mamola@smilesbydelivery.com.
And our website is miracledentalcare.org, and my email is dr.kinol@miracledentalcare.org.
Awesome. Well, I think all of you are great. You're amazing. You're doing incredible things. And thank you for coming on the podcast.
Thanks for having us.
So I think everyone's going to be really inspired, I would imagine, to get into some kind of version of teledentistry. And quite honestly, I think if you're in private practice, you can utilize it that way, but there are so many opportunities, and I think they really highlight it. And the thing that I keep going back to is that when you look at teledentistry, it seems complicated, but when you actually get down into using it and applying it, it's nothing.
Yeah. I think like anything else, like you're trying to get me to use Instagram all the time.
Mm-hmm.
I think anything that's new seems really daunting. But then when you find out it's only 2 clicks, or you need to have a workflow, someone's created a workflow out there in the world somewhere. All you gotta do is ask for it.
Yeah, exactly. And these bleeding hearts that are on this panel would absolutely help you get started. So definitely reach out to them. And again, we want to thank PDT, CE Zoom, and MouthWatch for the ability to bring you this podcast today.
If you haven't already checked out the Dental Podcast Network, Channel 1 and Channel 2, make sure you guys are going and searching that through your podcast apps. Make sure you're subscribing. Really, really great things. This is week 5 on the Dental Podcast Network. So you have lots of things you guys can catch up on, and love that.
So like us on Instagram, follow us on Facebook. You should check out our new website. Send us an email if you have any questions, but also subscribe to that newsletter. You guys are the best.
Thanks everyone. Have a great week.
Bye, y'all.